This tutorial, I'm going to show how to use ChatGPT, and there's a bunch of other tools now. So Claude is one that's popular. The Google Gemini stuff has gotten a lot better over time as well. And no doubt there's going to be other entries into the marketplace to use these different types of generative AI models. The thing that I've found the most value for them is to have them help you write code. Some people say that because these different Gen AI LLMs are so good at writing code, they're going to take coders' jobs and things like that. That's probably not the case. It's actually the case that a lot of these tools, it takes a high level of technical skill. And so I'm going to show here writing questions for ChatGPT. I'm going to give it, I'm going to make what's called a Flask app. And so the idea behind this is a lot of times we have manual data entry like into Excel spreadsheets, but it's better to have that information in a database. So you could do that via having a form for an access database that inputs the data. But here I'm going to show how to do that same type of thing using the SQLite library, as well as having an input via a Flask app. Flask is a Python library where you can do very simple web apps. So you can do a lot of different things in Flask. Here, input data into a table. You can do dashboards. You can do, basically, you can do anything that you can do in a web app in Flask. But Flask has a few different extra parts besides just the Python code. It has like writing the HTML templates to sort of fill in different parts. And so, especially at the start of a project, you'll definitely need to be able to replicate something like this, you would need to know, okay, I want to build a Flask app. I want to do a SQLite table. And I'm going to even put in the different types of schema I have. But, and this is a live demo, so hopefully it turns out well. But once you know what you're doing and can give the prompts that particular information, it can help out, especially in the beginning, sort of like writing out a skeleton for the project. So here I have in my ChatGPT app, I just have the free version. I don't even pay for $20 a month. And so you'll be able to see going through here, and that would be my suggestion. So if you have like different ideas and want to try it out, just use the free version and see how it does. One thing to note here is that you should never put in law enforcement sensitive information into ChatGPT. It's not CGIS compliant like that. So the idea that sometimes people are like, well, I'm going to upload my spreadsheet and just ask ChatGPT to analyze the data, that's BS. That's not going to work. Here I'm going to ask it to help me write code, and that it does very well. So here I just have those prompts saved in our tutorials. And so you can see it ends up being a pretty detailed prompt. I want to make a SQLite database that records firearm incidents. I want the data input into the database via Flask application. The database will just have one table, incident. The table's fields will be incident ID, date, address, firearm type, offender, victim. Can you first construct the Python code to initialize the database and create the empty table? And so if you typed in these prompts yourself, it'll be somewhat different. And so this will just be a particular example. So here, one of the things to note about this is that it's not, you'll get idiosyncratic code. So I've done this in different ways before, and it's done a little bit better. So here, pretty much, it's mixing up to do the Flask app and the creating the initial database to begin with. You could potentially do this. It doesn't really make sense to do it quite like this. So what I'm going to do is copy this code. Here, I'm just going to name it init db app.py. We'll copy and paste. And here I'm going to delete the Flask stuff out of here. Once you initialize the database, you only need to do it once. So you don't need to run this code every single time that you run your code. A few different things that it's doing here as well. I'm gonna edit, so it's forcing you to put in text for some of these things, but you may not have that particular information. So here we're gonna put in not null for address. Well, actually, address may be null as well. So but the other ones may be null. And so here you can just do your code init db, execute it, and we can just run this one time, and then it is pretty much done. So we can just do python init db dot py. And so now we can see our firearm incidents table is created. So the next part, I have a set of standard prompts in here, but I'm gonna change it. Well, I guess you can do thank you. Now you can make the Flask app.py file and the HTML templates for the form to input data. Make the HTML code use a Bootstrap theme. I could have technically told it I wanted this to be a totally separate file, and so it's going to have this initdb type of stuff going on. Before, I'm just going to edit that out, but you can pretty much be smart. Now this is the first part. This is going to keep running out, but here I'm going to copy the code, and you put this in app.py for Flask app. Some of the new different like editors now, like Cursor, sort of do this all for you to begin with. Honestly, it takes so little time. Flask app. We do not need to do the initdb. And let's see, is this going to be writing con equals get db connection? And then that looks okay. So let's go back to ChatGPT and figure out our HTML form. And here, the way that Flask expects these is we're going to put these in a templates folder. Index.html. Choosing our Bootstrap theme. And then see, it has required for a bunch of this stuff too. We're going to take that out. Well, actually, we're going to keep a date. We'll take out these required for these. And now to run this code, we should just be able to do Python app.py as long as Flask is installed. I'm not sure if Flask is installed here. And so this is installed on our local host. So you can do local host, and then what is it? 5,000. And so here's our particular report. So ABC 123. Oh, date. It did have a smart date validation in here. Address is so there is no firearm type. You may just have, you could have other different things like drop downs and stuff like this. So this worked, and now you can submit more information. But here we can close it out. So I guess we'll do another one. ABC 666 10, and then here we'll just put a victim and not insert the other things. Make sure that it goes through. It did. Okay. Now we can close this out. Control C, and if we do Python, you can basically just open up this particular SQLite database. So if we just do import SQLite, import pandas as PD, we can use this connection the same as we did in the SQL chapter. So pd.read SQL, select star from, what was our table name? Incidents? Con. And here's our two incidents that we just put into the particular table. And so that's an example of doing a very simple app. There's a ton of different stuff with that you can potentially do with Flask. So